Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it rain. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it
Hello, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome in. I did not just get done running around this place like a crazy person. I promise you I did not, but I did. So I feel like I'm a little out of breath, but I made it. I was wanting to make it before the countdown ended. So I did that. I succeeded. Just a little out of breath. So if you're wondering why, I'm not even a smoker. So you think I would be. Whew. But I was just trying to hurry. So welcome in, everybody. It's good to see you. If you are new to the channel, my name is Tanya or Titanium Built. You can call me either or. I forgot to do that last night. I forgot to introduce myself. So people are probably like, who's this person? We're on her channel. So, but welcome in. It's good to see you guys all here tonight. We have all the mods and everything. It's good to see everyone. We'll let some people come in. Hopefully you guys are having a good start to your week. We are going to go over While Idaho Slept. I wish there was like more of a light on this little book. Could plug that light in over there, I guess, but that might be too much light for me. But if you guys missed last night's live, you didn't necessarily have to watch the first live to be caught up with this live because I did a little book report for you guys. So I'll get you caught up. But I'm glad that people were enjoying it. And I actually had a couple people in the comment section say that they wouldn't be able to read the book because they are blind. So they're glad that I'm reading it. And I'm like, huh, I'm blind too, but just one eye. So we're good to go. But I do think that I need to go get me like a new eyeglass prescription. It's probably, that time. It's been like, I don't know. I've had these glasses. It'll be 3 years at the end of the year. So that's a long time to have a pair of glasses. But I don't ever take them out of the house. So. Oh, I will. I did Mary Beth, actually. If you look on my my videos, all the products that I use they're linked on my videos now. So the name of the song, let me check. I can actually check that right here. Light It Up, Robin Houston. I had to check that. I couldn't remember, but we have a couple songs. So, but yeah, all the stuff that I use, I'm trying to link it in each video, because if you guys use my link, then I get money for that. Not a lot at all, but why not, And why not share it with you guys? So if you guys are ever interested, there are some things that I can't link on there, so I'll have to tell you guys, but I'll do it on the second channel. I'll make sure. I thought about doing like a full getting ready with yours truly, because there's not much to it. There's not much to it. Anyone can do it. I'm like, anybody can do it. Oh, hey, Pookie's Grandma. Welcome in. Good to see everybody. Well, I'm glad, Ladybug. I'm glad I don't put anyone to sleep too much, but I guess it could be good. Reading Rainbow, that's exactly right. I think Doodlebug said that last night. Kind of going back up in the chat, but I think people are coming in, people are relaxing. We do have a couple non-Idaho documents. They're for the Idaho 4 case, but they're out for Pennsylvania. So I figured we'll go over that at first, and then we can get into the book. So I'm going to double check. I checked right before the live. I'm going to double check Idaho's site just in case. Nope, just the same two that we went over yesterday, just the state sealing the amended witness list. So now that's kind of okay. Maybe these are state's witnesses, but I don't know why they'd be they could be, because actually one of them was a former jail guard, the William Searfoss. I'm trying to figure out everybody and who they are. So we'll go through the names, and then I'll show you what the new order is. My dog just busted in. Hold on one second. I'm sorry. I'm still laughing. She did not care about that door being closed. I guess I didn't have it closed all the way, but she just pummeled right through it. But I know she wanted treats, so I was letting her go. Let's see. So we have 2 more names that are added to the list of people that have been subpoenaed. Now, I don't know if they're for Brian Kohberger's side or against, or they're for the state, for the defense. I'm not sure exactly, but we're going to figure it out together. Is it Neiman? Neiman? Iceland. That's far away from me. But it's beautiful there. Hey, Jenna. So let me pull this up, because I thought I had it pulled up for you guys. And I didn't. So this is the Commonwealth versus Brian Kohberger page on the Pennsylvania site. This is for all of any of the records or any of the documents that they've ever put out for Brian Kohberger have been on this site. I just happened to check it one day, and there was new documents on there. So we've been checking it every day since. Yesterday, there was a summons and decorum order, and then that was for, I believe, let me just open it and share it with you guys. That was for William Searfoss. Well, apparently he is I want to make sure I get this right. He's a former jail guard where Kohberger was housed prior to him being extradited out to Idaho. So he might have been the officer that was talking to Brian Kohberger. There was things that have come up throughout the investigation, and we don't know what's true or what's not true, because we haven't heard from anybody over there. But people were saying that he said, was there anybody else arrested? He couldn't wait to be exonerated. He told one of the officers that he wanted to have coffee with them after all this was done and over with, things of that nature, So maybe they're calling him over to testify, because maybe Brian did actually talk to him a little more, or maybe not so much. But we'll see. We'll see what he knows and what he doesn't know. But today they had an order continuing one of the hearings for Maggie Sanders. So it just says, now this, the 24th day of June, 2025, it says, upon consideration of the agreed motion for continuance of hearing on petition for summons for Maggie Sanders, it is hereby ordered. So she gets to go in on July the 7th at 9 a.m. I don't know. She must have had a pretty good excuse, why she couldn't. Maybe she wasn't going to be in the area. I don't know. But that's what I got for you for that. Oh, gosh, I'll get him out. I'm always weird. That, I have it on, I think, members of 4 minutes because I put it up or maybe I didn't put it up an extra minute. But I did, I did last night. And it was just I don't know. We didn't have any last night, but then I don't know. Tonight, people will be weird. If you're into that, man, that's cool with you. But I'm not into that. Actually, I think I know who it is. Oh, okay. So let's get over to. I'm actually was going to read this to you too. Actually, maybe I don't need to. I won't even need to. If I should tell you guys actually who all the people are. So we have a few different names. We've got 7 names. I have 8, but one of them has been removed, and I'm not sure why she's been removed. And maybe you guys know. But this is in no order either. So Jesse Harris has been, these are people that have been called from Pennsylvania over to Idaho. They've been subpoenaed for the hearing on June 30th in Pennsylvania to see if they have to be subpoenaed and they have to go to Idaho to have it for testimony. So Jesse Harris, and he's the person who owns the boxing gym where Koberger boxed at. Marie Bolger, she is the one that got her name took off, and she was the former DeSales University professor, the one that gave Brian the recommendation for the PhD program. Only did that 1 out of 2 times. She got her name off. I don't know why she did. I mean, maybe the state was going to use her and they didn't need to, or maybe I don't know why the defense didn't want to use her if they had her name on there and they took it off, but someone took her name off. But Ann Parham is an academic advisor, and Ralph Vetchko, I don't know how to say his last name, but it's the one that starts with a V. He works or worked for Colonial Auto Sales, so he may have sold Brian his car, or he may know something to do with Brian's vehicle. Maggie Sanders and Anthony Soma, I don't know anything about them guys. So I don't know anything about them. So I don't think I've seen any of the articles I've read. And then William Searfrost is the former jail guard where Brian Koberger was housed. And then Branda Andriola went to Northampton Community College with Koberger. That's what we're believing. That's what we're thinking. That's the connection between them two. So with that said, let me stop sharing the screen. Let me put up. I'm just going to I was going to do a video, and then I should have, but I didn't have enough time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an overlay of pictures and just kind of go through them as I read off this chapter 1 recap for you guys. So I know that it starts off with this. So if you guys didn't join us last night, no need to worry. I got a little bit of a book report for you guys. So While Idaho Slept is a book by J. Reuben Appelman. He is, it's a true crime book that chronicles the brutal murders of 4 University of Idaho students, Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin in Moscow, Idaho on November 13th, 2022. Part 1 of the book sets the stage for the shocking crime, focusing on the victims, the initial discovery, and the early investigation, while emphasizing the human toll and the community's response. In Part 1, the author introduces the victims, providing a humanized portrait of their lives. Xana Kernodle, 20, was a marketing student known for her compassionate nature and eagerness to connect with others. Ethan Chapin, also 20, was Xana's partner, recognized for his dynamic spirit and deep loyalty to those close to him. Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogen, both 21, were close friends with vibrant personalities active in the university's social scene. Appelman details their lives drawing from interviews and public records to highlight their dreams, relationships, and the impact they had on their community. This focus sets the book apart, prioritizing the victim stories over sensationalizing the crime itself. My dogs are at the door, sorry, if you can hear them. The murders occurred just after 4 a.m. at an off-campus house at 1122 King Road, where the 4 students were viciously stabbed to death with a large non-folding blade knife while they slept. The crime scene was gruesome, with the author describing the blood seeping into the house's foundation, underscoring the violence of the attack. 2 other roommates survived, one reportedly frozen in fear as the killer passed by in a darkened hallway. The small town of Moscow, which hadn't seen a homicide in 7 years, was rocked by the tragedy, shattering its sense of safety. Appelman outlines the immediate aftermath as the Moscow Police Department, a small force of 37 members, was overwhelmed by the scale of the crime. The investigation quickly drew support from the FBI, Idaho State Police, and a $1 million fund from the state governor, reflecting the case's high profile. Early investigative efforts relied heavily on security camera footage and cell phone data to reconstruct the victim's movements in the night of November 13th and the early morning of November 13th. Sorry. Appelman notes the challenges faced by law enforcement, including limited resources and intense public scrutiny, as the case became a national media sensation and a social media obsession, with platforms like Reddit and TikTok buzzing with theories. Part 1 also explores the broader context of the crime, delving into Moscow's identity as a conservative Christian community steeped in America's patriotism. Appelman reflects on how the murders disrupted this close-knit town, creating an atmosphere of fear and disbelief. He introduces the concept of citizen sleuths and the media's role, posing a central question: has the nature of homicide investigations changed due to public access to information and the true crime frenzy? So now we're going to start on part 2 of the book. And if you guys want to read along, you can, because I have a copy to where you can read along. So let me put this down. I'm going to grab my drink really quick and then we're going to get started. Let me put the book up. And if you guys don't mind, take a second, hit the like button for your girl. And let's see how we did this last time. Oh yeah, I share it like this. Okay. I might have to grab some water at some point, but I'm okay for right now. I think I am anyway. Then my throat cracks. Okay. So this is going to be part 2, which is like part 1 went in kind of like in sections 2. I forgot to add that in. There was one section for each student, it seemed like. So, and I have this kind of set where it's kind of big for you guys. Hopefully you guys can see that okay. And thank you guys all for being here. I appreciate it. I think you guys are awesome. If you guys, I'm actually going to throw the membership link in the chat before I start. If you guys want to join our channel membership, we'd love to have you. Oh, thank you, baby girl. That's so sweet of you. Thank you. That is so kind. Whenever I go to the screen, I always get behind those things, though. I'm getting better at this, though. So Corporal Brett Payne of the Moscow Police Department was 33 years old and looked like many seasoned military vets from North Idaho, with a fit build and smoothly shaved head. He had served with the Army's 82nd Airborne Division in Afghanistan as a paratrooper and had been a police officer for only 4 years. just 2 of them with the Moscow Police Department, where he was awarded Rookie of the Year in 2020. While studying at the Peace Officers Standards and Training Academy, Payne was the first officer in regional history to receive 3 awards for excellence. He had proven his aptitude for the job and shown levels of diligence and investigative acumen that stood out to the small Royal Police Force he was set to join. Payne had seen death up close during combat in the Middle East, but had never conducted a domestic homicide investigation in Idaho, let alone been the lead investigator on one. That was about to change. He got the call to King Road at around 4 p.m. on November 13th and arrived at the residence to assist with both securing the location and crime scene processing associated with what he'd been told were 4 brutal homicides. The 4 students, he would later learn, had been murdered a full 12 hours earlier. Payne had been late to the scene, but then so had been everybody in the force. The 911 call hadn't been made until noon, 8 hours after the likely times of death of each of the victims. The emergency call reportedly hadn't even been made by either of the 2 surviving roommates, Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk, but had been placed by Mortensen's phone by one of their friends, a boy named Hunter Johnson, who was the best friend of one of the victims, 20-year-old Ethan Chapin. None of that made sense right away, and like everybody in the Moscow PD, Payne was scrambling to understand what had happened overnight. By the time he arrived, neighbors from all directions had gathered around the house. Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk had been removed from the immediate area. I'm going to read that again. Okay. Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk had been removed from the immediate area. The Idaho State Forensic Services team was already on scene, and several of Payne's colleagues from the Moscow PD were canvassing for potential witnesses. Well, thank you, Monchichi. That's very sweet of you. Thank you. She's over there jamming. Maribeth is. Officer Corbin Smith was one of the initial responding officers and a young Marine Corps veteran who gotten his bachelor's degree at the University of Idaho before becoming a cop, walked Payne through the horrific scene. Payne entered the house through the first floor threshold off the communal parking lot while crime scene analysts in their disposable hazmat jumpsuits swabbed the doorframe and windows for DNA and prints. He took a stairwell behind Officer Smith to the second floor. The smell of death was unmistakable and already strong. Although his tenure with the Moscow PD had been relatively brief, he'd already seen more bloodshed in Afghanistan than many in Idaho law enforcement would see in their lifetimes, certainly more than most Royal cops had signed up for. Down the second floor hallway to the east side of the house was a small bathroom, adjacent to which was Xana Kernodle's bedroom. As Payne approached it, he could see a female body on the floor just inside the door with wounds that appeared to have come from a large knife or other edged weapon. The body, like most bodies in death, was positioned unnaturally and was later identified by a driver's license and other personal belongings found in the room as Xana Kernodle. Further inside the room was the body of a large male victim with wounds that the nearby Spokane County medical examiner would refer to in reports as sharp forced injuries, likely from the same edged weapon. The male body was identified as Ethan Chapin. The blood in the room, spattered and leakage, was extensive enough that it later appeared to have drained to the exterior of the house. Payne followed Smith upstairs to the third floor of the residence where the bedrooms of Kaylee Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogen were across the hall from each other. When responding officers first arrived a few hours earlier, the Golden Doodle Murphy had been found shut inside Kaylee's bedroom on the west side of the third floor, spared by whoever had committed the murders. There had been no blood or other evidence found on Murphy. Officers had taken him from the scene and processed him, then placed him in a temporary protective shelter. He was eventually returned to Jack Decor, who lived just around the block and had slept through the phone calls from Kaylee and Madison and through the murders. Thanks, Mega Mama. You guys are so kind. Thank you. Okay, I was like, where was that? Kaylee had reportedly been trying to get back together with Jack the previous night, which he would learn when he checked his phone, and now she was dead. Inside Madison Mogen's room at the southeast corner of the third floor, Kaylee and Maddie lay atop Maddie's small bed together, both deceased. The stab wounds that had ended their lives were grotesque. A large pink M for Maddie rested on one of the window ledges, and beside of it, against the window glass, was a pair of pink cowgirl boots. Pink-hued roses decorated the wall around a circular vanity mirror, modern like the kind sold by West Elm. A sleek white vanity and chairs sat beneath a dark green foxgrass wall hanging with neon cursive sign that read "Good Vibes," a duplicate of the wall hanging and sign in that doesn't even sound right. All right. In the second floor living room that Payne had crossed. Twinkle lights lined the ceiling along the wall where Maddie normally slept. On the bed next to her, partially concealed by her body, was the folds of her comforter, lay a tan leather knife sheath with the United States Marine Corps Eagle Globe and Anchor insignia and the words USMC and K-Bar, the type of knife, all stamped into the material. A military blade. This was something that Payne recognized immediately. The physical evidence was unusually ferocious. Homicide investigators didn't often get much of substance left at the scene. The perpetrator had either planted the sheath on purpose or accidentally left it behind in the pandemonium of committing the homicides. Either way, it was something to work with. While both Kaylee and Maddie had been viciously murdered, one appeared to have been attacked more brutally than the other. Cops called it overkill. It was something that nobody, cop or otherwise, had the stomach to look at for very long. Overkill often implied that a specific victim had been targeted. Chapter 8. Chief of Police James Fry had lived in Moscow and its environs for longer than most, although he wasn't born and raised, as people from his small town often proudly declared for themselves. North Idaho was in his blood after 35 years. The 53-year-old, with a closely cropped cut and pleasant, sincere demeanor, had gone to high school in Council on the edge of the Wallowa Whitman National Forest, 3 hours south. The junior and senior highs in Council were combined under one low, hanging roof. There were so few students in the area. Fry was one of just over 100 in grades 7 through 12. The school mascot was a lumberjack with a red stocking cap and a double-bladed wood axe over its shoulder. When he moved north to study at the University of Idaho, the whole world got bigger. Fry stayed in Moscow through a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a master's in curriculum and instruction. He joined the Moscow PD as a reservist in 1993, becoming a full-time officer 2 years later. He met his wife, Julie, now the treasurer manager of the city of Moscow at U of I in the early 1990s. They had 4 children together, all of them grown now. Sorry. But the family bonds that still connected them deeply to the landscape and people of North Idaho. Fry had served many roles with the Moscow PD. He had been a member of the SWAT team serving high-risk search and arrest warrants and training for active shooter and hostage situations, and he put in extra hours instructing new recruits on firearms and taser handling. After just over 20 years, he had been sworn in as chief in 2016. He was then overseeing the safety of the small town he'd gone to college in. But he was no small town investigator. In fact, shortly after becoming chief, he was invited to train with the FBI in Washington, D.C. at the National Training Academy, which accepts less than 1% of its police applicants. Didn't know that. Go Chief Fry. I mean, that's something to be proud of. There, Fry had access to courses on intelligent theory, terrorist mindsets, and behavioral and forensic sciences, all taught by the leading and most experienced minds in law enforcement. After 10 weeks with the FBI, Fry had sharpened his investigative acumen, and he had made connections in the bureau that he would soon find the need to call upon. Prior to becoming chief, Fry had been captain of the University of Idaho's campus policing division, so the murders of Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan hit him hard. 4 of his own had been taken. Not only did Fry understand the nuances of his town and every aspect of its small but competent police unit, having risen through the ranks from the very bottom, he understood the collective heart of the U of I student body. Its pulse coursed through every artery of Moscow, and every capillary was filled with the hopes and dreams of it. Oops, I did that again last night. I was doing that. Filled hopes and dreams of its nearly 12,000 students. Look at that. Willow's been a member for 4 months. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm glad. I'm glad I entertained you guys. I like being here with you guys. I was actually going to come on earlier because I was bored. I was like, I need my people. I was like, but then I didn't want to mess up my time, so I didn't. So it says, this case was personal to Fry. Responding officers and Fry's detectives had been first to walk through the scene at 1122 King Road. Not even wearing booties yet, they backed off when they saw the extent of the carnage. It had been obvious that command needed to be called. By the time Fry had done his own walkthrough, his investigators were scanning for tire tracks and taking swabs from the windowsills. His photographers were snapping thousands of shots, and media photographers had already started to arrive in a slow trickle outside. Some of his officers were canvassing the neighborhood for security camera footage, and others were knocking on doors looking for potential witnesses. Still others were carefully combing the woods to the rear of the house and rifling through garbage dumpsters in the vicinity looking for the murder weapon or other physical evidence that may have been shed in the perpetrator's departure. I'm just going to say it just this one time. They checked all those garbage cans, but they didn't check that back trash. I would have checked it for them. I would have flew out to Idaho, checked the trash, and left. I don't even know. I wonder what was in there. Maybe they found something. I just think it's ridiculous they didn't take that trash in first. You know, it was out there like when they were going to demolish the house. It was like still hanging out back there. Oh man. Inside the house, there was blood on the walls, on the floors, and on the mattresses in the bedrooms. The bodies remained where they'd fallen, slain with an obviously large blade, but not tied up or gagged or otherwise restrained. There appeared to be no sign of SA, something the autopsies would later confirm. The first floor of the residence showed signs of recent alcohol use by the students. Red plastic cups for mixed drinks littered the kitchen along with empty beer bottles and unwashed dishes. A Jack-in-the-Box bag sat on the counter. The King Road house had been known by policing authorities to be a party house, but it wasn't just the current tenants who built its reputation. The 6-bedroom home so close to campus had been a party hub for years. There was a well-traveled path to a glass slider off the second floor entry and a keypad on the front door that Kaylee Goncalves' sister Olivia had told police the students often gave out the code to. So while there was no sign of forced entry, the fact had little weight. The killer could have been a previous visitor to the house, a partygoer who knew even tangentially one or more of the girls who lived there and therefore knew the interior layout of the unusual structure with its unevenly tiered floors and awkwardly placed wrapping stairwells. The 2 survivors, Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk, were being taken good care of by Fry's detectives. They were cooperating, but Fry would have to keep what they've been saying under wraps. One of them had seen the killer, but she could not positively identify him. If the media got a hold of that before the police found him, the perp might spook. Well, welcome on in. Thanks for becoming a member. I appreciate that. Okay, you guys are so sweet. You guys are the best. Thanks for making this easy. Believe you me. All right. So the crime scene at any quadruple homicide was likely to be complex, but the unusual layout at 1122 King Road and the party-throwing habits of its tenants made things much more difficult for Fry's crime scene analyst. There might have been hundreds of sources of DNA, fingerprints, clothing fibers, or other trace evidence accumulated over the past several months. Narrowing all that down to a suspect was going to take time and resources the 37-member Moscow PD simply didn't have. Chief Fry brought in the Idaho State Police immediately, and then the FBI with a team of skilled analysts and criminal profilers who might be helpful. Moscow would continue to hold the reins on the investigation, and Fry would need somebody to be his direct report in charge of that. He knew that Corporal Brett Payne was his guy. Payne was practically a rookie, but whip smart and able to work behind the scenes while Fry handled management of the various out-of-town teams collaborating under his lead and handled the media too. Small towns didn't usually hold press conferences to update citizens on their casework, but Fry was savvy enough to understand that controlling the King Road narrative was probably better than letting the media run amok. In a city conference room, the lights flashing in his face and live cameras rolling, Fry told the press whatever he felt he was legally allowed to tell them during an active investigation, which often wasn't much. It wouldn't be long before the Daily Mail reported Moscow Police Department Chief James Fry gave a blundering press conference Sunday in which he repeatedly could not answer basic questions about the crime. News Nation jumped on into the dog pile right away. It didn't matter to the press that no thoughtful police department in the world would provide detailed information about their investigative progress 1 week into a high-profile hunt for a murder. The headline sold, and they sold Chief Fry down the river while the harsh global spotlight illuminated his town and the people he'd been serving for almost 3 decades. I agree with that. I think he was trying. I really do. I personally think he was trying to give updates because, I mean, there really wasn't a lot to give. Like, I remember back then, we wanted like everything. We wanted more than just what we should have been allowed. And that's why I say a lot of times, like, I mean, the police, they shouldn't have to like sit down what they're doing, really. Like, they're working a case. They shouldn't have to sit all their stuff down and stop what they're doing just to give a press conference. Like, if that was me, I couldn't do it. I'm too ADHD. I would sit back down at my desk and be like, what was I even doing? And I could have had like my number one lead right there. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be able to be taken from my desk like that. But they did a good job at, like, you know, getting up there, talking, and, you know, giving us what they could give us, I guess. But we had a lot of speculation. So even though they had a list of people that had been like talked to and were of interest or were cleared, people still, that wasn't good enough for some people. I mean, it just wasn't. But so chapter 9 in the mosque. Sorry, man, my throat is really dry. It's not, I don't know. It doesn't feel that dry, but I keep coughing. Welcome in, everybody. Hey, Felicia. Hey, is she? We're reading while Idaho slept. I should have put that as my banner, and I forgot. If anyone comes in and anyone's asking, OJ did it. Well, that's the truth. In the Moscow City conference room, lit from overhead by recessed halogen lamps, Chief Fry stood in front of a podium with a single microphone during the presser. He was flanked by his sheriff, his prosecutor, and Idaho State Police Colonial, and several members of the University of Idaho's upper administrative staff, including its president, Scott Green. That guy got on my nerves. I ain't gonna lie, he did, though. I'm going to, and I think what we'll do, just really quick, while I have you, and I remember, we'll go through the press conferences again, starting with Pennsylvania before trial starts. I think that'd be like a good refresher of everything. But we'll just skip, if you guys want, we could skip the school and stuff when they were talking, because they didn't really tell us anything. You know what I mean? It wasn't about the investigation. So it says, I'm going to be reading from my notes today, Fry said, because I want the information you received to be extremely accurate. Over the past few days, rumors about potential suspects, primarily previous boyfriends or creepy neighbors of the King Road residents, had been spreading online. DNA Jeremy. And Fry wanted to make sure there was as little room for speculation as possible, not just pertaining to possible suspects, but to all details of the Moscow PD's investigative progress. Unlike Fry, who at times appeared to grip the podium like a gunner on the back of a tank, All the men he'd brought with him stood with hands crossed diplomatically in front of their monochrome suits and starched police uniforms, rigid looks on their face, the way men stand at funerals. This horrible crime has affected all of us, Fry continued. The families, the University of Idaho, our community, our country, and our officers. Off camera, the press corps sat elbow to elbow in conference chairs, waiting with bated breath for any information they could report to their audiences. The date was November 16th, 2022, 3 days after the bodies had been found, long enough for the media circus to pull into town and set up their tents. Oh, yes, I remember. We could actually watch our old press conferences. Like, that would be kind of funny. Because I used to wild out. I don't know if we should watch them. The facts of the case that we know right now, Chief Rice started, then paused to collect himself before reciting a laundry list of items he believed could be vouched for. We know that these homicides occurred in the early morning hours of Sunday, November 13th, around noon. Moscow officers received a call of an unconscious person. Officers discovered the bodies of Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Madison, Mogen, and Kaylee Goncalves inside the residence on King Road. The four were stabbed with a knife, but no weapon has been located at this time. There was no sign of forced entry into the residence. Investigators are continuing to collect evidence at the scene. Investigators are working to develop a timeline to relevant events. Autopsies are taking place today on all the victims, so we will continue to gather evidence and solve the crime. Based on the details of the scene, we believe this was an isolated, targeted attack on our victims. Fry sounded short of breath, the pain of what he just read from his notes, an isolated, targeted attack, thumping in his chest as the press corps leaned forward off of their seats. We do not have a suspect at this time, he continued, and that individual is still out there. We cannot say that there is no threat to the community, and as we have stated, please stay vigilant, report any suspicious activity, and be aware of your surroundings at all times. Again, his breath was uneven. This was his community. These were his people. Fry had grown into adulthood with, gone to church with, thrown footballs and fished with, and raised children alongside. He wasn't warning strangers of a potential threat. He was warning his own friends and family, the people he carried every day in his heart. At this time, I would like to introduce the University of Idaho President Scott Green. Fry stepped back from the podium, and Scott Green stepped forward, his white hair bureaucratically tidy as he put on his reading glasses. Green's University of Idaho was not the biggest public university in Idaho, but it was the oldest and one with the most political and social clout in the state. First, my deepest condolences to the family. Green stopped fighting back tears, his head bowed over his school-colored yellow tie, and he prepared notes he brought along in a manila folder. He pursed his lips, his chin was threatening to quiver. A full 10 seconds passed before he tried to continue. And friends of Ethan, Kaylee, Xana, and Madison. But again, more tears came and another full stop. He cleared his throat. These were his students entrusted to his care. He had shared his home with them, and danger had slipped through its unlocked doors. Excuse me, he said. He looked around the room as if for a glass of water or another way through the pain that was also visible on Chief Fry's face beside him. Green wanted to address the victims as more than just a glitch in the University of Idaho's dependently low crime statistics, as more than just their four names for the press to print. He took a breath and pushed forward. Their loss has been devastating, and they were bright lights in our community and are deeply missed and remain in our thoughts and prayers. His voice sounded like it had gravel in it, the tears building at the back of his throat. Before he'd finished, he added, "We just want justice for these victims." Outside, the temperature was in the low 20s, and leaves had started to fall from the hardwood trees. The University of Idaho campus was all but abandoned, students having locked their doors on the unknown world. They ordered carryout from DoorDash or Idaho Eats, delivered directly to their dorms by the new campus robots in the Starship fleet. Oh, have you seen them? Have you seen them? The new robots that deliver your food? It's too AI, too futuristic. We have them up in Columbus. They're scary. They will bring you your Chick-fil-A. Deliver right to you. Oh my gosh, you gotta look it up. If you don't know what the camp like, just look up campus robots, Ohio State. Just oh man, can I kick it or do they scare you? They scare the crap out of me. I'm afraid one of them gonna run me over. Got somewhere to be. I thought they were security cameras. I was like, they're not security cameras. They've got food in 'em. I really thought they were some sort of like added security for the campus, and they're not. They're food. They bring food. But if you've not seen them, they're called campus robots. You have to look them up. They streamed shows and waited to go home for Thanksgiving break, which was just around the corner. Many students had already left, allowed by their professors and the university's administration to skip turning in their homework or taking last-minute tests online. Most had been on edge and shock and anxious since the morning of the crimes. There would be time to catch up on schoolwork later. Inside the press conference, Colonel Kenrick Willis, director of the Idaho State Police, approached the podium. He was large with a fresh cut and a commanding presence. You heard the university's president, as well as the chief of police, talk about this small community and its very close, tight-knit community, and our hearts break for the families that lost their. And now Willis's voice cracked. He had been with the state police since 1996 and had worked his way through the ranks from a lonely post as residential trooper in the farmlands of East Idaho, eventually to ISP headquarters outside of Boise, and finally into the good graces of the governor, who shook his hand and appointed him director 5 years prior to the murders. Willis had a master's degree and had trained with the FBI and Homeland Security, and he'd seen everything nasty and brutal there was to see in Idaho policing. The King Road murders were tough to swallow, but he caught his breath and spoke to the media like a seasoned cop he'd made his name as. Crime knows no boundaries, he said, and these murders have shaken us to our very core. Chapter 10. Behind the scenes, investigators were hoping their biggest clue, the K-bar knife sheath left beside Maddie Mogen's body, might lead them to the perpetrator. They visited local retailers and sent search warrants to Amazon, Walmart, and eBay for all purchases of the distinctive K-bar with its 6-inch blade and the model 1217 leather sheath they found. Shifting through the volumes of documents received in return would take valuable manpower, but regional buyers could be identified quickly. The traditional military K-bar had become popular in combat. Its usual stacked leather washer grip allowed for greater control when hands were perspirating or otherwise wet. Rainwater or blood might cause grip slippage on lesser knives. The K-bar also had a uniquely high carbon steel blade with an elongated groove, so it was lighter to carry than most weapons of its considerable size. The sheath was sent for DNA analysis. During a second round of crime scene processing at 1122 King Road, the Idaho State Police forensic team discovered a previously unnoticed latent shoe print just outside Dylan Mortenson's bedroom door, where she told investigators the man in the mask, presumably the perp, had brushed by on his way out of the house. I don't think that was Kohlberger's shoe. She said he was wearing boots. That was like a tennis shoe, like a tennis shoe sneaker like pattern. That's just me. Hold on one second. Okay. They found it using amido black, a staining dye that reacts with difficult to see blood proteins, turning them dark blue and enhancing their visibility. The shoe print, not entirely obvious to the untrained eye, but made clear after processing, showed a diamond-shaped pattern facing the direction the perp had walked when exiting the house. Now, along with the knife sheath, which they hoped the killer had touched with his bare hands, leaving behind his biological signature, they had the size of his shoe. It felt like a lot, and it felt like nothing. Even if they grabbed DNA off the sheath, if the perp wasn't already in any of their DNA databases, they'd still have a mountain of work to do. Forensic detective Lawrence Mowry, a mustached veteran was the Moscow PD's expert in digital data retrieval, and he was put in charge of serving dozens of warrants to obtain access to the victim's browsing history, social media accounts, and cell phone records in an attempt to identify what might have led to their murders. The victims' Google, Facebook, Reddit, Instagram, Snapchat, and iCloud accounts were examined, and with the help of the FBI, their banking, credit card, Venmo, PayPal, and point of sale records were also retrieved. No digital stone that police could reasonably suspect might offer leads was left unturned. The FBI set up a trailer in the gated parking lot of the Moscow Police Department, and from there, agents helped to process all digital and video evidence that was being collected. The feds had generously allocated as much manpower as Chief Fry needed to help study the massive amounts of information coming in. Detective Mowry had also served a warrant to obtain access to Kaylee Goncalves' dating account on Tinder, but did not initially serve warrants for any dating profiles of the other victims. Kaylee was the only victim not currently in a relationship. We know that he did one for Maddie, too. I know that. I saw it. So, your book's wrong there. Maybe he'll say it in a minute, but because I thought it was weird that that Maddie would have one because she's been in a serious relationship. But look, it says right here. So never mind. Never mind. He's still right. Okay. I was about to say, I'll stop reading right now. I'm just kidding. I'm waiting. But it says here that despite her bond with Jack DeCour, Kaylee had technically been a free agent at the time of her murder. Well, anybody that's not married is technically that. Mowry had also obtained access to her password-protected laptop. After reviewing Kaylee's Tinder account, Mowry sent additional warrants for the acquisition of nearly 40 other Tinder accounts. He also sent one for Maddie Mogen's Tinder account, information going back 2 years. Oh, nearly 40 other. Wow. Because Xana Kernodle had received a DoorDash food delivery just minutes before the murders, Mowry wrote another warrant to obtain all DoorDash delivery information associated with 1122 King Road. The November 13th driver had been cleared by the police of any association with the crimes, but there were other drivers to consider, and all of them had at least limited access to the house and would conceivably know the girls' late night schedules. Yeah, but that would be crazy. Extensive video canvassing of the King Road neighborhood led to the accumulation of a great deal of security footage from neighbors and businesses. With the assistance from the Idaho State Police and the FBI, Payne's team went frame by frame through many hours of digital tape. Some of it would prove valuable and some just plain gut-wrenching, like the 4:17 a.m. footage from the immediately adjacent neighbor's light socket security camera shaped like an egg hanging over their front door. Less than 50 feet from the wall of Xana's bedroom, the camera picked up the sounds of a dog barking numerous times and then distorted audio of what sounded like a whimper followed by a loud thud. The $50 camera seemed to have recorded nuances of the murders taking place, which further helped Payne's team nail down the exact time of the homicides. It was another break, and it aligned with Dylan Mortensen's statement that she'd been awoken by Murphy barking upstairs. The sound of the thud was hard for the team to get past. The remaining footage from their video canvas in those early morning hours of the 13th took days to be reviewed. The team had hoped to identify the perpetrator's vehicle traveling to or leaving the residence. At this point, they didn't even know if the perp had been operating alone. Perhaps they were looking for more than one vehicle. Dylan had seen only one man, but that didn't mean that there hadn't been others. The murders might have been a team killing for whatever ungodly reason. The police department simply didn't know how much of anything yet. They had the knife sheath, the footprint, the time of the murders, and a partial description of a man in a mask. That was all great, but why had it happened? And if there were proved to be no DNA left behind on the sheath or no match in their databases, how the hell would they make the leap from here to the finish line? They would need a miracle. Corporal Payne was reviewing the footage from the King Road neighborhood when he saw a white sedan make an initial pass of the 1122 residence at 3:29 a.m. The sedan made 2 more passes over the next 30 minutes, then left the neighborhood. It returned a 4th time at exactly 4:04, just after Xana's DoorDash delivery departed the area. The sedan briefly stopped directly in front of 1112 King Road. Then, after a series of awkward movements as if it had been attempting to park, it continued slowly off camera and was not seen again for 16 minutes. At 4:20, grainy footage of the sedan showed it departing the King Road neighborhood at a high rate of speed. There was no front license plate displayed, and the rear plate was obscured by darkness, but the police department had received their miracle. I'm going to see something really quick. I just want to see how many chapters are in this part. Oh, wait, I'm all the way like up there. Okay, I skipped it. Sorry, guys. There it is. Oh, okay. So chapter 11, Chief Fry held multiple press conferences over the first 2 weeks of the investigation. The pressure from the media was matching the pressure he was feeling inside to work hard and fast and find a suspect and to find justice for the victims. The day before Thanksgiving, the presser location changed to a staging area inside the modern alumni club at ICCU Arena on the University of Idaho campus. Thinly woven black curtains hung as a backdrop with direct winter sunlight filtering through. TV crews had entered the building with tripods over their shoulders like pickaxes in the gold rush for coverage. Hairdos filled the audience. Fry spoke solemnly. "We all want to understand why this happened and what drove someone to do this," he said, his cheeks flushed, his dome reflecting light when he looked down at his notes. He made a broad request of the public to continue to submit any information or physical assets like video footage that they might be holding on to, even if it seemed benign. Sometimes what a video or picture doesn't show is equally as important as what it might be there, Fry added. He choked up while providing information about a tip line for the case. A few days earlier, he had explained that the task force had conducted over 90 suspect and witness interviews, and that the Moscow PD had assigned, in addition to their primary personnel working the case, 4 detectives, 24 officers, and 5 support staff, while the state police had provided 20 investigators and a crime scene team, and the FBI had provided 42 investigators and 2 behavioral analysts. There were already more than 100 people working on the 1122 King Road homicide case, but the number would soon skyrocket. Man, look at that membership for 25 months, Mary Beth. Thank you for being a member for so long. And sorry if I don't see the chat too much when I'm reading. You know, it's hard to see the chat. Actually, I have the chat up here to see tonight. Oh my good golly. Girl, I had it already up here. I was ready. And then I just forgot. So now that's like trying to catch up. So thanks for being here, guys. Sometimes what a video or picture doesn't show is equal. We already read that. Sorry. All right. Oh, he introduced Captain Roger Lanier to the podium and stepped aside. Lanier could have been Fry's brother. They looked so similar, both thick-chested with rounded faces and closely cropped beards. Fry seeming to have gone whiter in recent days. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Lanier was a 20-year veteran with the police department in Lewiston, a nearby paper mill town with a smell from its factory emissions, often compared by outsiders to manure. No freaking way, man. I'm from a town. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm from a town that has a paper mill in it. Have y'all ever smelled sulfur burn? I can relate. That's how we knew we were home from vacation. To insiders, Lewiston reeked only a valued industry, but he had put in for Moscow's open chief position in 2016. Fry got the job. But Lanier transferred to Moscow anyway, taking his post as captain and gaining the respect of his new department for what they saw as his calming style of leadership. He hadn't bullied his way to the top, but was a reflective model investigator. In a Facebook video he posted, Lanier said he'd been enjoying his Sunday afternoon at home when he got the call about the King Road homicides. It took me a second, he said, his brain having to catch up to what he'd been told over the phone. Moscow hadn't had 4 murders in the last decade, let alone 4 in one night. When he arrived at the crime scene, neighboring students were still standing around outside crying, trying to learn who the victims inside the home had been, what exactly had happened to them, and who had done it. First on Lanier's, I know I'm saying his name wrong, agenda at the presser was addressing the unfounded rumors that had been spreading online about potential suspects. We do not believe the following individuals were involved: the 2 surviving roommates, the male seen in the grub truck video circulating on the internet, a private party who drove Kaylee and Madison home, any of the individuals who spoke to the dispatcher on the 911 call. We are also aware of a male whom Madison and Kaylee had called several times the morning of November 13th, and we do not suspect that individual. The police department had not yet released the 911 recording, but Lanier had previously stated that several people had spoken to the dispatcher during that call. He just wouldn't name them. On social media, the victims' peers and even family members would soon leak their names for him. Lanier's job, similar to Fry's in front of the media, was to say only what was prudent to acknowledge during an investigation and nothing more. When he paused again, it was to gear himself up to address what had looked like a lead in the initial days submitted by those who knew Kaylee Goncalves personally, that Kaylee had spoken of a man who had been harassing her. We have heard mention that Kaylee stated she may have had a stalker. Detectives have been looking into that and to this point have been unable to corroborate that statement. Being unable to corroborate the stalker theory did not mean it wasn't true. In fact, the manager of a vape shop, Cafe D Vapor, which Kaylee had frequented, had called the tip line and reported that Kaylee and Maddie had previously complained to him about Kaylee's stalker. I don't know about that guy. The police had visited the store requesting security footage. Lanier gave a stern look to the cameras, shaking his head when he told reporters any online reports of the victims being tied and gagged are not accurate. In a few moments, Colonial Willis of the ISP walked to the podium as he had before and as he would in each presser to come. He patiently explained that the investigations take time and he asked for the media's patience. I'm going to grab my chapstick really quick. Sorry, I mean chapstick really bad. I don't think I'm really putting so much on. I'm just looking at the chat while I'm doing it. Hey, everybody, welcome in. Yeah, I got it like all over my face. Okay. That's fine. I put like this stuff on at night. Better start working. So, yeah, remember the guy that had the smoke shop? I don't know. He kind of looked like the kind of guy that would want to be friends with somebody. I don't know. He was a little weird to me, I think, just personally. Lanier gave a stern look to the camera, shaking his head, and then he told reporters any online reports of the victims being tied and gagged are not accurate. In a few moments, I think we already read this, didn't we? Okay. Colonial Willis of the ISP walked to the podium as he had before, and he would in each presser to come. He patiently explained that investigations take time, and he asked for the media's patience. We didn't have that. People were sneaking in them. Was it the second press conference that the lady snuck in on? Oh, I can't wait to watch the old press conferences. Oh, thanks, Mary Beth. And I forgot I should have like hearted your guys's little things. I always forget I can do that. Thank you, Mary Beth. You should have kept that for yourself, honey. You're so good to me. You're so sweet. You are. You guys are, all of you guys are just a good bunch. Except for that Squeaky, man. That Squeaky. Just kidding. Just kidding, squeaks. So at this crime scene, we collected 103 pieces of individual evidence. It's a lot. We took approximately 4,000 photographs. We conducted multi 3D scans of the residence, and we have hundreds of hours used by technicians and investigators, including our forensic teams and detectives from multiple agencies. We've processed over 1,000 total tips and conducted 150 interviews. Rise exponentially as the investigation progressed. Willis took a few moments to emphasize that the King Road Task Force had the utmost confidence in their process, even if that process seemed murky and slow to the press. The task force was not going to sacrifice quality for speed, he told the packed room. Finally, he revealed that the popular Republican governor of Idaho, Brad Little, had been in regular contact with the state police and had made $1 million funding pledge for expenses related to the investigation. Little had been raised on his family's sheep and cattle ranching operation and had studied agribusiness at the University of Idaho. I didn't even know that was a thing, but I mean, I know like agriculture is, but in agribusiness. Okay. His connection to the people of Moscow went back half a century. Chief Fry eventually took the podium, opening the room to questions, but as with each presser before and after, he reserved the preliminary questions for the young reporters from the University of Idaho newspaper, The Agronaut. Regardless of what was asked in the next 15 minutes, nobody on the task force spoke about the warrants they'd served, and none dared mention the white sedan for fear of propelling its now sought-after driver deep into hiding. Chapter 12. I think this is the last chapter of this part, but we'll see. Chief Fry was leaving what many would consider the good life before the King Road homicides. His kids were grown and moving on with their lives. The land he drove through every day back and forth to work was beautiful, and his wife Julie had been building a heck of a career. Compared to what he was facing now, most of the previous hassles in Fry's life seemed like they had been small ones, like the old Facebook backlash to his department publicly thanking Christ Church for the cookies they'd sent. Some irate citizens perceived favoritism to that growing sect of Christianity in town, and they chewed Fry out because he sent thanks for the cookies. Wow, y'all are nuts over there in Moscow. In the Moscow PD's official Facebook response to the uproar, Fry pointed out that his people had also recently thanked Subway for their delivery of sandwiches. Shut the front door. Shut the front door. I have a new respect for him. Oh my, thank you, Ladybug. I have a new respect for Chief Fry. This is good. I've never heard him be like that, you know? So he's like okay, apparently the Christ Church sent cookies to the cops, right? And so he thanked them on the Facebook, probably the Facebook page, like, thanks Christ Church for the cookies you sent. Like, that was probably nice or something, right? And they chewed him out for that. He's like, and his response to the uproar, right? Like, his response is like, hey, Subway delivered us some fantastic sandwiches last week, and we thanked them too. So funny. Oh man, that's good. That's good. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. Okay. That's funny. Okay. Where's my bookmark? There we go. The public discourse between the police department and its community in Fry Small Town had been like family sitting around a table. The passions were high, yet the stakes were often pretty low. People bickered, but the bedrock was love and respect. Outsiders didn't always understand that, and the game had changed on Fry pretty quickly as the King Road case gained national attention. Gone, especially, was the respect part. Inside the Moscow Police Department's headquarters, Chief Fry was repeatedly photographed by journalist Long Lens through the windows of his second-floor office. The photo showed him working on the case late into the night, sometimes scratching his head and pacing. He had learned to close his blinds, but that was not how Fry was used to working or to living for that matter, blocking out the sky, but also the people he served. As Moscow's mayor had told the regional spokesman review about the chief, he does not want to be the guy who's front and center. He doesn't want the limelight. What he wants is just the results. But now Fry was operating in a role he wasn't necessarily made for and certainly wasn't happy inhabiting. The community was starting to feel a pretty strong media intrusion too. They definitely were. I heard. I heard that there were some like YouTubers that were like trying to go up into like Moscow and go into like the corner club and make scenes and do videos. And they were like, "You're not one of us. You're not our people. Bye. Get out of here." Like, I would probably do the same thing. Especially like there was probably so many people. There's probably so many different people. And then, you know what I mean? Like, you already have to deal with the national news. They probably think they can't say anything to the national news as much as they could say something to like the little person, you know? But I mean, still. In the street, I mean, someone spit on, was that someone? No, I think Betty spit on them. Yeah, Betty spit on someone. Yeah. She's a gem. In the street in front of 1122 King Road, a big SUV idled in the parking spots full of network reporters hiding from the cold weather while waiting to grab footage. Normally, those spots were used by the neighborhood's residents, most of them college kids. The press corps had been approaching for interviews almost daily. Handwritten signs in many of the doorways now warned the press to stay away. "We do not want to talk to you," a post-it note on one of the doors read. Up the street, a rectangular piece of cardboard on a dowel leaned across a snowbank. The words in black marker: "People do not live here. People who do not live here do not block our driveway." Frustration was growing. I see that. Remote controlled drones periodically entered the airspace above 1122 King Road, slightly swaying in the wind while providing aerial footage of the house for news programmers. The neighborhood was often presented cinematically from above, cameras zooming in towards the murder house while crime scene analysts on the ground donned their gloves and booties. Meanwhile, Fry was waiting for the knife chief's DNA testing to return from the Idaho State Police Forensic Service crime lab. He knew it would take time, a lot longer than the evidence processing took on television shows like CSI, but he also knew the sheaf found next to Maddie Mogen had been prioritized. Many in the task force worked through Thanksgiving Day, continuing to process leads. All weekend, the police station remained a bustling hive. Private citizens dropped off food for the officers, just like the church had done, but nobody gave the police department grief about accepting it. While the students out on break, the town of Moscow felt like a shell of itself. Many of the students might not even return, it seemed, as the University of Idaho had offered them the option of finishing their classes online that semester, given that a killer was still on the loose. It was an easy pivot for students and professors to make, having learned to go hybrid during pandemic-related lockdowns. Yeah, they were probably like, going back home. The blinds at 1122 King Road were closed, and its front door was marked by the evidence seals, red tape, and kept a timestamp of investigators entering and exiting the residence after it had been secured for a period. Each time a new cop came or went, their name was recorded in Sharpie as an additional step in chronicling the chain of custody over evidence and to discourage non-essential personnel from contaminating the scene. The street out front was mostly empty, and the skeleton crew of media that remained away from their families for the holiday did so mostly out of view in their hotel rooms. Moscow more closely resembled what it had been years ago when Fry and his wife were students and the town population was less than half its current size. But back then, the quiet wasn't from abandonment. The town was known as a beautiful place for stopping by and a better one for digging in. It was a place where people felt safe and wanted to stay. Now it was becoming known almost exclusively for the murders. Bringing the killer to justice might help, and DNA results from the leather sheath could be the starting point for that. DNA didn't always hold up in court, however, especially if it had been contaminated by other sources of DNA from the same scene, which was likely to happen in a house like the one at 1122 King Road, where dozens of people came and went all the time. But Fry and his team were reportedly ecstatic when they finally got the results they had been waiting for. A single trace source of touch DNA, male in origin, had been found beneath the button on the K-bar knife sheath the killer had left behind. They'd hit the jackpot, sort of. They still had to tie the DNA to a suspect. They ran the crime lab's DNA profile through CODIS, the combined DNA index system. CODIS holds the entire body of DNA samples from all convicted offenders, arrestees, and detainees. Samples provided by families and assistants with searches for missing persons, samples from unidentified human remains, and sometimes more significantly, all DNA profiles collected from all crime scenes in the country. The National Index was amassed by local government crime labs uploading their DNA profiles to the state indexes, and then the state crime labs uploading their profiles to the feds. The National Index is maintained by the FBI, who by now had a skin in the game and were as eager to solve the King Road investigation as Chief Fry was. Unfortunately, from the well over 20 million profiles in CODIS at the time, there was no match. The team then submitted their DNA sample to a commercial genetic genealogy service like 23andMe, hoping to get a match to a relative who might have submitted their DNA for more casual purposes, such as understanding their genetic history. It was a long shot, and Fry went to bed that night at his home 20 minutes from the station, knowing two new things: that his perp had never been in the system, and that justice for Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana was still painfully beyond his reach. Part 3. Yeah, you don't even need a copy. Actually, I can give you a copy of this if you guys want. Let's see. What else do I have? I don't know. Did I show you guys this? I don't know if I read this to you. I think I did. Or no, I didn't. I just showed it to you guys. Or I just read what I had. So I'll show this to you guys too. I wonder how long part 3 is. I didn't think it was it was kind of long, but I don't think it was super, super long. My book is different than the actual this because it's so much bigger, you know. Are you sure you're not trolling Nightbot Tom? Are you sure? Well, that's part 5. Let's see. I mean, I guess we could just start reading, and then once I'm done, once I'm oh, I'm done reading, we'll be I'm done. It only looks like a few more chapters, so let's just start. Sorry, guys. I'm going to call the whole police. Okay. Let me get my book back out. Part 3. So, Kaylee Goncalves was born, it's chapter 13. Kaylee Goncalves was born in the San Francisco Bay Area town of Concord, California in June 2001. I was in high school. She had thick curly black hair at birth and a small scar of unknown origin on her forehead, which had puzzled her doctors. During her childhood, long after the Goncalves family had moved to North Idaho, her siblings would tease Kaylee about the scar. That's where horns tried to grow in, they would say. In Coeur d'Alene, the family lived in a 7-bedroom home on a tree-lined street near a Vista utility company, which provided the city's natural gas and electric services. It was a suburban neighborhood with beautiful, massive Lake Coeur d'Alene nearby, its water so overwhelmingly blue, they almost seemed fake. Later, the Goncalves moved to neighboring Rathdrum, 13 miles away, but still in Coeur d'Alene School District, on nearly 7 acres of pastured and woods in the 6-bedroom house, and was lovely and welcoming. It had hardwood floors and crown molding, a large shop and deck, and a storybook white fence. Kaylee was the middle of 5 children, and like many in the middle, she had an adventurous streak that kept her family on its toes. With a sociable nature and a goofy sense of humor, she easily brought people into her orbit from the time she was very little. She went to Bora Elementary School in Coeur d'Alene, where her kindergarten teacher, Miss M, remembers her as one of the most joyful members of their small class. She was always moving and having fun and just full of life, her teacher says, recalling the little girl's tiny pigtails that would bounce when she walked. Kaylee, she says, was friendly to boys and girls alike, always fair. She smiled constantly and enjoyed learning. Miss M had known Kaylee's whole family well, Coeur d'Alene being what it is, small in a good way, and the Goncalveses were good people, she says. She felt closer to them than she did to many parents. When Miss M found out what happened to Kaylee, she was devastated. Okay, sorry, I thought I missed a page. Now she says, I just feel so much for the family. Even months after learning of Kaylee's murder, she choked up while speaking of it, a catch in her voice as she adds, I don't know what you say to someone whose child has been murdered. Others in Kaylee's life remember her effervescence, dovetailing with a love of mischief. At just 3, Kaylee removed the batteries from her grandfather's beloved TV remote and then sat on the couch and grinned as he ranted about it suddenly not working. Oops, I didn't mean to hit that. Kaylee's sister Olivia noted at her memorial, their grandfather called Kaylee K-Bug because of her constant playful annoying of him. Her reputation with the rest of the family was similar, said Olivia. They saw her as a good-natured pain in the butt. By junior high, Kaylee was attending the Coeur d'Alene Charter Academy, a top-tier Idaho public charter school for grades 6 through 12. The school was academically rigorous, boasting the highest SAT scores in the state, nearly 300 points above the Idaho average. Founded by a conservative Republican who emphasized a personal work ethic along with academics, the academy required uniforms and prohibited clothing or accessories that are worn with the obvious intent of being different or unique. It was a cultural fit for the area, if not a great one for fashion-conscious, free-spirited Kaylee who loved designer clothes. Even the art department emphasized rigor over creativity. Citing in the course catalog, the program's focus on the academics of drawing and design, media and techniques, art criticism and aesthetics, and art history. It was a lot to swallow for the average junior high student. Man, I keep skipping over, sorry. But if Kaylee had her issues with the school, her social life wasn't one of them. Her best friend, Maddie Mogen, was there with her, and that was everything. From the moment Kaylee and Maddie met at the academy in 6th grade, they were inseparable. In a photograph from the time the two girls stand on the back deck at the Goncalves family home, the corner of a school backpack just squeezing into the bottom of the frame, they were matching khaki shirts with clean waistbands and blended buttons. They cock their hips, smiling at the camera. Sunlight shines on the sage-colored plank siding of the house behind them and on the white sashes. They might weigh 90 pounds apiece. Maddie's long blonde hair is clipped to one side. Kaylee's brown hair now has artificially blonde streaks. Their collared uniform shirts are tucked in crisply in the style of their school. Their canvas tennis shoes are equally cared for. Maddie's purple, Kaylee's white, each with bleach white shoestrings perfectly tied. They wear bracelets on their wrist. Maddie's chews gum. Kaylee has braces. We're on chapter 14. Kaylee loved it when Maddie became a staple at the Goncalves family home. The two did their homework together, and in the 8th grade, according to the family, they conspired to change schools together. They were ready for a bigger, more varied experience. They wrote up a proposal for their transfer to a regular public school and presented it to their families. A year later, they were enrolled at Coeur d'Alene's Lake City High, home of the Timberwolves and Fashion Freedom. After their murders, teachers at Lake City shared some of their memories of the girls, whom most viewed as a single unit. Donna Staub, one of their English teachers, remembers the two of them as hyphenated phrase Kaylee and Madison. On the first day of school, as others were quietly finding their seats in Staub's class, the door opened again and Kaylee and Maddie walked in glowing. Staub recalls fondly that the two girls would often arrive just a whisper under the late bell with an iced drink in their hand, always laughing, always ready to learn. Kaylee, she remembers, had often tried to read more challenging books than her friends. In an autobiography assignment, Kaylee had also confessed that one of her favorite Christmas gifts had been the entire box set of the Bobbsey twin books, in which the protagonists embark on wild adventures and solve mysteries along the way. She had a propensity for mystery solving herself. As she got older, Kaylee became a true crime follower, listening to podcasts about the missing and murdered. She paid such close attention to local cases that she'd even once called the Moscow police to report that she'd seen someone she thought might be missing. Coeur d'Alene woman at the Walmart near the University of Idaho campus. Sergeant Dustin Blaker was, Sergeant Dustin Blaker, one of the officers who would later become an investigator on Kaylee's murder case, had spoken to her over the phone. Kaylee reported that she had seen 62-year-old Sharon Archer, whom she'd recognized from a missing persons flyer, staring at her and her boyfriend Jack as they shopped. She sent a photo of the flyer to Blaker, hoping he could investigate, but the woman was no longer inside the Walmart by the time police could respond. 3 weeks later, Sharon Archer was found drowned in 400-acre Fernon Lake in the mountains between Moscow and Coeur d'Alene. One of Kaylee's favorite true crime commenters was TikToker and YouTuber Olivia Vitelli. Kaylee followed her cases closely, according to Steve Goncalves, and when Steve was reeling with his own loss and grasping for answers about Kaylee's murder, he reached out to Valente for help in raising awareness and gathering leads. Goncalves, through Kaylee and Maddie, would have appreciated that. Citizen sleuthing was right up the Bobbsey twins' alley. The expression thick as thieves comes to mind, says the girls' Lake City High School speech teacher, Todd Jasmine, who admired the girls' energy and bright spirits. They complimented each other well. They also knew how to push each other's buttons and could be fairly brutal in their smack talk to each other. But mostly they looked out for one another and would fiercely defend one another should smack talk come from anyone else. Another of their English teachers, Madison Seymour, remembered how helpful the girls had been during her formative time as an instructor. I was new to the profession and just trying to figure out how to be a good teacher, Seymour said in an online tribute. I know I made mistakes along the way, but Maddie and Kaylee were always supportive and positive. The encouragement I received from them made my job so much easier. That was nice of her to say. I'm going to grab my drink. Well, thanks, Mary Beth, and welcome in, everybody. If you're new, okay, oh, there we go. I was like, why does my picture look like that? Never mind. Okay, Seymour had graduated from the University of Idaho, where the girls would die a few years after being in her class. Kaylee, she thought, was going to take the world by storm. Outside their high school, after graduating, Kaylee and Maddie posed for a photographer together on the green lawn. They both wore white dresses beneath their purple graduation robes. Kaylee held a bouquet of flowers, pink the color Maddie favored. They stood so close that their heads were touching. Kaylee's older sister, Olivia, was pregnant at the time of Kaylee's murder. By late February, new life would come into the family. It was a blessing and a balm, but nothing could make up for the hole in Olivia's life. She felt she had lost not just one sister, but two. The girls had always been together. Maddie had seemed as much a part of the Goncalves family as Kaylee had been. Olivia gave her daughter the middle name Maddie Kay, the girls' names interfused as everyone had always thought of them. And not long after the murders, Kaylee's younger sister, Autumn, made a TikTok video of herself crying, devastated by her big sister's absence. The video almost immediately amassed 3 million views. With no arrest yet, Autumn was also posted to her social media, urging U of I parents to bring their children home from school early. If you have friends, family, or loved ones in Moscow, our family encourages you to get them home, she had written. No one is in custody, therefore no one is safe. Implicit in her impassioned pleas was an unanswerable question. How could this have happened to people she loved? Kaylee and Maddie hadn't been careless in their lives. They went out together. They locked their doors, Autumn said, and they were surrounded by friends. My sisters did everything right, she posted. On Instagram, she recounted the gut-wrenching interaction that no family imagines. Maddie, I keep replaying the moment the police officer knocked on our door. At that time, we had heard that Kaylee had passed away, but we refused to believe it until we heard it from a police officer, she wrote. I was blowing up your phone, begging you to let me know Kaylee was okay, having zero idea that you weren't. When the officer mentioned 3 other victims, she immediately knew something terrible had happened to Maddie as well. Her family was shattered all over again. I love you two forever, she wrote, and to her sisters in the heavens. And to her followers, she wrote pretty simply, tell your people you love them. Chapter 15. Kaylee was excited to go to college with her best friend. They eventually lived together, but somewhat surprisingly joined different sororities to broaden their experiences. Maddie pledged with Pi Beta Phi, while Kaylee pledged Alpha Phi. Both were party houses, and both sororities were soon on probation for what the University of Idaho considered violations or concerns regarding risk management, alcohol/drugs, or hazing. Both sororities were full of girls who looked like Kaylee and Maddie, long hair falling into golden waves over smooth shoulders, straight teeth gleaming in the sun. In the Instagram photos everyone posted, the girls all had smiles that spoke 1,000 words, but about the futures ahead of them. Kaylee's high spirits made themselves known in her sorority. She had a contagious laugh and liked playing pranks on her sisters in the house. She was always up for an adventure and always inclusive. She was nice, she was free-spirited, and she was always down to do something. Olivia, a little, in Kaylee's sorority says about her, Olivia shared a name, although spelled differently, with Kaylee's sister, or Kaylee's real sister. I gotcha. Okay. Littles were newcomers to the sorority system, and Kaylee was a big by the time Olivia, a freshman at the university in 2022, met her. They hadn't interacted much, but Kaylee's warming presence had felt comforting to Olivia in her first months away from home. Everyone's memories seemed to have this in common. Kaylee was a girl who was plain good to be around. To live like Kaylee, another of Kaylee's sorority sisters said on Instagram just a week after her murder, would be the biggest accomplishment. Both Maddie and Kaylee thrived in the Greek social system, and their early education had prepared them to thrive in academics as well. Kaylee studied in the College of Letters, Arts, and Social Sciences, and her work ethic soon put her on track to graduate early. And there was Jack Decor to keep Kaylee busy romantically. They'd begun dating in high school and gone to their senior prom together. The two of them had been so young when they met, and they were still young, but in a different way. Occasionally they broke up, then they got back together. When Kaylee and Maddie moved to the King Road house in the same neighborhood as Jack, Kaylee took the room right across from Maddie's on the 3rd floor. Like the floor beneath them, theirs had a sliding glass door leading onto a wood frame deck where Kaylee's dog could lie in the sun outside, or even inside where sunlight filtered through the glass and across his fur. There were no outdoor stairs from the 3rd floor deck to the ground level. If there had ever been a fire inside the house, the girls on the 3rd floor would have had to jump. Kaylee's bedroom was decorated with plants and photographs of her friends and family. She had made the room feel homey and had recorded TikToks there with Murphy, holding his paws to the camera while he smiled along with her. Soon after the girls moved in, 22-year-old U of I student Matthew Moy took notice of their frequent parties and the loud country music often playing from a speaker on the 2nd floor patio. Matthew lived in another house just up the bluff, 50 yards behind the King Road residence. From his vantage up high, it seemed that the King Road girls made having fun a priority, something he could understand. In good weather, Matthew too sometimes blared his music from the house while he sunbathed on the deck. Many people in their neighborhood did. Once he called in a noise complaint to the police, but not out of spite, he says, only because he had to get up early the next day and he wouldn't be able to sleep until the music at 1122 was turned down. Well, you just told on yourself there, buddy. That's not good. He met Kaylee more personally while he was taking care of his brother's dog, Bodie. Kaylee's Murphy would run up the hill behind the King Road house and squeeze through a gap in the chain link fence. The two dogs would play in Matthew's yard, chasing and tumbling. Matthew developed a friendly acquaintanceship with Kaylee. Sometimes they'd run into each other while walking the dogs. He thought she seemed mature and sweet. When he first heard what happened to her, he was shocked and disbelieving. No way in hell it was a murder. He had first thought, this is Moscow, Idaho, no way. He and his roommates suspected the deaths were drug related. Like fentanyl, he says that's been happening a lot lately. As the truth sunk in, he and his roommates thought, holy shit, Matthew began to suffer from nightmares. It was scary living in a home so close to where the murders had occurred and with the killer still on the loose. To assuage their fears, he and his roommates got a security system installed in their house. We were pretty paranoid for a little bit, he says. After a while, his roommates, one of whom was his sister, also a student at U of I, began to relax, but the violent loss of lives still seemed unreal to him. It will never compute to me that actually happened. It's just hard to fathom, he says. Then he adds, I think about them often. By spring, Matthew would graduate. He had a plan to join the Air Force. He would move into adult life, live somewhere else, tackle a new job, get a car. Kaylee had been planning the same. In Austin, she would have worked for an IT firm. She had bought a pre-owned Range Rover SUV with a bank loan and moved out of the King Road residence early, excited to graduate in December. She'd be leaving Jack and even Maddie behind. She had come back only for that weekend in November to attend a party and to show Maddie her new ride, so freshly purchased, it didn't even have plates yet. She had parked the vehicle in front of their house. The Rover was silver and sleek and had tires good enough to take her across the world. It was still sitting there 3 weeks later, covered in ice. Chapter 16. The cops first came to 1122 King Road and met Kaylee in August, well before the murders, when the weather in Moscow was beautiful, low 80s, the sun shining. After a slow summer, the sounds of a campus coming to life were starting up again. The low-level melody of footsteps and car doors opening and grocery bags hoisted from Subaru trunks drifted on the breeze. Down the street at 1127 King Road that day, another group of students was throwing a small outdoor party. There were students on the rooftop drinking beer in the sunshine, while others sat in the lawn chairs on the pavement or wandered from the back of the house with red Solo cups. Rap music played from a speaker until the cops came. Then the music was quickly turned down, and body cam footage from the incident shows a male officer from the Moscow PD climbing the driveway to speak with the house tenants. The officer looked freshly groomed with a tight and high haircut. He stood in the driveway with his left hand on his hip, fastened gear, while 3 young men in t-shirts with ball caps approached him. The rest of the outdoor partygoers had turned their eyes to the officer too. One young man on the roof squatted on his hunches, staring down. Dappled sunlight filtered through the trees on a small hillside behind them. The officer explained to the 3 young men that neighbors had complained of a noise. He issued a verbal warning and told them that tickets for a noise violation could be expensive. Spend the money on beer instead, he said, before fist bumping one of them goodbye. Then the officer and his partner walked around the corner and uphill to 1122 King Road, their shadows progressing 10 feet in front of their body cams. The date was August 16th, 2022, some 3 months before the murders and 6 days before classes were to resume for the 22-23 school year. It was approximately 5:30 p.m. when the sun still burns hot in Idaho. You could almost hear the heat in the heaviness of the officers' breathing. They climbed 1122 sloped driveway where 5 vehicles were parked. A young man leaned out the window of what would have been Kaylee's 3rd floor bedroom, and 2 other students alongside the house wandered away from the police as they approached. Hey guys, one officer called to them. Can you send someone out who lives here, please? One of the 3 men initially ignored him, staring down at a golf ball in his hand while continuing to walk away, but the officers corralled him. The body cam footage then cut to the second officer walking along the side of the 1122 King Road through tall summer weeds, climbing slightly uphill to the 2nd floor patio, where his partner was questioning a young man in khaki shorts, a blue polo, and a white beaded necklace like people just back from Caribbean vacation or Mardi Gras wear. Oh, okay. This was Hunter Johnson, Ethan Chapin's best friend. An old couch, a dome-shaped barbecue with the lid off, and a portable table holding a stack of red beer cups sat on the concrete patio. At the direction of the officer, Hunter went back through the slider to find a legal tenant. A few minutes later, Kaylee Goncalves came outside, tan in a burnt orange dress, with Hunter steps behind. Hunter gently closed the slider behind him, shutting in the small party that continued inside, only quieter now. Hi, guys, Kaylee said, greeting the 2 officers like she would have any other pair of men at the house. Do you know why we are here? The officer asked. She said, I assume noise. She appeared sober, almost businesslike, hands moving to her hips the way a homeowner might stand while awaiting a contractor's bid. Sorry. Lay it on me. What's the damage? Noise? Yeah, the officer said. Hunter sat down on the patio's couch, a beat-up Curb Alert special that months later would be covered in snow, photographed by the press corps, and analyzed by citizen sleuths. Nothing against having a party, the officer said, but once the neighbors start calling, fair, Kaylee said, knowing the right thing to say and the right time to say it. You in school, the officer continued. Yeah, Kaylee said. What year? Senior, she said confidently, the way seniors do. The police officer gave her a verbal warning and explained that a $300 ticket was the next step, should he have to come back. I'd much rather you spend that $300 on beer. Sorry, guys. Beer or something fun, he added his usual refrain. A guy who understood, not much older than Kaylee. On his notepad, he took down Kaylee's contact information. In the distance was the University of Idaho water tower peeking above a tree line, the neighborhood between Kaylee and the campus squatting low in the sun. There are handprints all over the sliding glass door. Hunter and then Kaylee went back inside where the living room had its good vibes neon sign in cloud white cursive like the one in Maddie's bedroom. And where the fronts of Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan kept drinking. That wasn't in Maddie's bedroom. That was in Kaylee's room. Okay, that's wrong. I know that for sure. And kept drinking in the kitchen that would later be photographed by those who'd come to see the murder house through its double pane windows. Behind the two cops, the yard was fully overgrown with high mountain weeds standing upright in the early evening heat. Welcome in, everybody. I was just trying to move this over so I can see the chat. I don't know why I can look up. I keep forgetting I can look up. Did we go through that already? I guess we did. Okay, chapter 17. But that was before everything ended for Kaylee and long before most people in the world knew Kaylee's name or the measure of joy she brought to those she loved. At a candlelight vigil held on November 30th at the university in honor of Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan, Kaylee's parents spoke to a large crowd of students touched by the murders. Steve Goncalves wrung his hands in front of the microphone on a slim podium. I hope to be able to make you laugh, but I'm afraid we're going to have to cry, he began. He told the audience that in preparing his remarks, a task he seemed unpracticed at, he prayed to the heavens and used Google as a backup. He had looked up the 7 wonders of the world and decided there should be an 8th, the relationship between a father and his daughter. That is pretty wonderful, he told the audience and quipped. You start wondering the minute they put that baby in your hand, wondering what you're going to do, and you wonder how you're going to feed them and how you're going to take care of them. Fatherhood hadn't been easy at first. There had been a learning curve, but he dug in hard finally. You start seeing the world through the girl's eyes, and as a father, it's a little bit scary. On a local network streaming the vigil, photographs of Kaylee intermittently populated the screen. Kaylee's frolicking in the autumn leaves, wearing ripped blue jeans and a floppy hat. The world starts having like this purple haze, he said, describing the rolling years of parenting a young girl. Raising Kaylee's brother had been familiar to him, but the girls were altogether different. And there's puppies and there's kitties. There's all these weird movies you have to watch, and they start crying all the time, he added. But you start falling in love with this world that they built. You see this world, and you don't have pickup trucks and all these footballs. You start seeing the beauty of what they have and what makes them special. Kaylee was on the screen again, the sun in her hair. Goncalves continued through sniffles, fumbling a few jokes while his wife, Christy, standing by his side, corrected him. He looked like a man proud of his strength, but now vulnerable. In 6th grade, they just found each other, he said of his daughter and Maddie, and they came here together, and in the end, they died together. He drove his open hand into the podium for effect. In the same room, in the same bed, he said, and it's a shame and it hurts, but the beauty of the two always come together is something that comforts us. He told the large crowd of students how he thought they could heal. There's pain everywhere. You're just going to have to love each other. You guys are just going to have to hug each other. You're going to have to be a little awkward. The only cure to pain is love, the only thing that's going to heal us. It's the only thing that's going to heal you. A man in the audience kissed the head of a woman beside him, his arms around the shoulder of her winter jacket. Over the next several weeks, before a suspect had been found, Steve Goncalves continued to take the Moscow PD to task on camera, demanding answers they weren't yet ready to provide. He was fighting for his girls. He would have jumped into his car and solved the case himself, found his daughter's murder the way any father would want to, but without insider information, evidence, or even the thought process of investigators, he felt robbed of the opportunity. He sat for interviews on Fox, Good Morning America, ABC, NBC, News Nation, and wherever else would have him pleading for an internet-savvy public to help find his daughter's killer. He looked good on camera, his Carhartt-style jacket and worn ball cap vibing an all-American dad, and he was well-spoken. It's hard for me to give up as a father my protective ability to other men, he said on Fox, and people could relate. The case was certainly getting more international attention because of him, which was all any parent would care about in the wake of their child's murder. A killer on the loose, everybody had said, and Goncalves could feel the perpetrator slipping away. What he knew for certain was very little: the time of death, the method, a hunting knife, the coroner had said, and that Moscow PD had no persons of interest in their sights. Goncalves and his family made flyers, and they mailed thousands to area businesses and homes, asking people to check their outdoor garbage cans for discarded evidence, asking people for their security footage, asking for tips to be sent to the Moscow PD, asking for help, plain and simple. Each night, Steve and Christy now went home to a family without Kaylee in it, a family that was heartbreakingly one person smaller than it had been just a few days before. No two people. Maddie had felt like theirs also. Guess we got through part 3 pretty quick, didn't we? Well, that makes me feel better. We got 2 parts done tonight. Look at us go. I didn't realize we were that far, or we didn't have that much longer until, part 4. I need to do mine autocorrect get that off my phone too. Actually, I like autocorrect, but mine, I need to get my name off mine. If I type in couple things in my name, it gives out my email, and I don't care if anybody has my email. It's just weird, you know? Okay, let me see if there's anything else out there. Now, we do have the court hearing coming up on the 30th. We're going to hear from a few different people, it looks like. They're going to have, 6 people there? So, I don't know. I don't think it'll be I don't think cameras will be on in there because they're witnesses. Yeah, that's not going to happen. But I bet Brian Eaton will be there though. Brian Eaton. So I'll keep my eye out on Twitter or whatever, and I'll come on because it'll be at 9 a.m. It's gonna be 9 a.m. our time. I'll come on sometime that day, or maybe I'll come on a little bit later, in the day, and around 12 or 1. And if it's nothing good, right? If I don't hear anything by actually, we have to give them time to get in there. I don't know. Maybe we'll just follow up that night. But I might come on earlier and tell you guys because it might be something really good and I might not want to keep it from you, you know? Thanks, baby girl. I appreciate it. I kind of feel like I need to go get my eye checked, the one. But I appreciate you guys sitting here and listening to me read. Yeah, he's probably still over in Israel, but he should be coming back. I know that he was on Twitter earlier. Because I said something about his dog. Let's see where he's at. See if he's coming back this way. I'm like, why are we sending Brian over there? Why is Quobo not over there? Normally he goes over there. Right? Doesn't he? What the heck's he got? What's he out there eating? He's eating something. The nerve. The nerve of him to eat something without me? Oh no, not today. Do you know how bad that would scare him if I just opened that door and was like, "What are you eating?" I can hear him like, could you hear that? Sound like he was like, I think that can only be two things. That's either him. I heard it again. It's either him eating a yogurt or feeding the cat. I don't know what's going on out there. Did you hear? Someone just busted their butt. He better not be eating chicken with rice. I love chicken and rice. I should scare him. Oh, it would be so funny. But then I'd probably give him a heart attack. I used to scare him all the time. He used to hate it. I used to scare him all the time. I really do have good ears. That's why I was surprised I couldn't hear the lady, but the DoorDash lady. Because I'm like, I have the best ears. I can hear anything. I literally like I've lost like the backs of earrings and I've heard them drop. Like on a carpet almost even. Like I can hear it all. I can hear everything. But now I'm hungry. What did I eat today? Oh, I didn't eat much. That's why I'm hungry. I'm like over here, I'm like, I'm hungry. Why am I hungry? Maybe I'll go get some food. But thanks for being here with me tonight. I'll be back tomorrow with what are we on? Part 4 now? Yeah, part 4. I gotta make a new thumbnail, which I mean, I can do that with you guys just on here. That doesn't take a second, which was weird because I'm used to like doing a new thumbnail every single night, and I just did the one from last night because I want them to kind of look the same so people know that we're going over the same thing. Oops. So it took me like 2 seconds to do it. I was like, well, that didn't take long. I just did it again. Put 2 and 3. So we'll be back for part 4. And I will if you guys are not aware of like the last 2 chapters we read, if you're coming in late, I'll have a book report for you tomorrow. But thanks for being here. I appreciate it. It was good seeing you guys. I don't know what's going on out there on the world of YouTube, but it was crazy today. It was like everybody was on fire. A lot of people have been talking about Eugenia Cooney. I don't know why she got back like into people's minds. I mean, she's been on the internet for years now doing the same old thing, but I don't know. But I just thought it was the first thing that popped up. I've been watching some weird stuff, let me tell you. I've been watching everything but anybody that I know. Like I don't know anybody. I've been watching wedding photography gone wrong. Those videos are good. That is entertainment. You should look into that if you need some entertainment. Like it's sad for the bride, but it's sometimes like it's a lot of brides that are just like kind of like mean. It's not really like the photographer's fault per se. It's like more of the brides. I'm just like, ooh. But yeah. No, he didn't. Did he really, baby girl? God love him, I'm surprised it took him until now. That's crazy. That's so funny. That's so funny. Man. Oh, it's been a trash bag today. I actually did I'm gonna send it to you, Ishi. I did how much was it? Like 4 minutes? Let me see. It was like a 4-minute like video or like a voice call today. And I was like, I put my thoughts into my phone and I was like, should I send this to Ishi? I was like, should I just save this for myself? And I just saved it. But it wasn't like mean or nothing. It was just like, I'm like, oh my Lord. So, but thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you. I'll see you guys all tomorrow evening. Yeah. And I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. So I'll see you on Hump Day. Tomorrow's Wednesday. I'm halfway through the work week, so I'll see you guys all then. Bye, guys.
Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We gonna light it up. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt.